Children of Morta is a beautiful dungeon crawler with underwhelming gameplay. The game has you play as a family of warriors that fight monsters within multiple dungeons. You can pick your character before each level, and they each have their own unique abilities. John has a sword and shield, you slash away at enemies, have a short dodge, but more uniquely you can block enemies' attacks, while Linda uses a bow and can shoot enemies from afar, or Kevin uses daggers and builds up his attack rate the more he hits enemies. Even though I just listed 3 characters here, they don't feel that different to each other, at least not for a while. This is because in my opinion the game suffers from a tedious progression system. Your characters don't have many interesting abilities for quite a while, so for a lot of the time you'll find yourself simply mashing the attack button, dodging and repeating. So for me, I found the main gameplay loop to get boring quite fast, which really made it hard to motivate myself to continue. I can definitely see that the game would be a lot more palatable in co-op, but I didn't get the chance to try it. That's not to say the combat doesn't feel good, because it does. The heavy weapons feel meaty, and spells raining down from the sky doing immense damage all look and feel great. Unfortunately, if there isn't much changing throughout the gameplay, then even that can get stale quite quickly. I also found that the enemy variety left me wanting more. The different enemy types didn't really play that differently to each other, and so I ended up fighting most enemy types in the same way, which was still just dodge and then button mash. Dungeon layouts also got boring. Despite the new coat of paint per chapter, they don't really feel that different. You still find the same types of enemies and traps in all of them. While exploring dungeons, you can occasionally find obelisks that give you temporary buffs like a constant fiery explosion or increased XP gain. You can also find some chests which can only be opened with these green shards that you find sparingly in the dungeon. These green shards can also be used if you run across a shop to buy some goods. The most fun I had was finding treasure rooms, which made things a little bit more interesting. You could find a passive companion that will follow you around and attack enemies, or something more interesting like an active spell that will pull enemies together. Although these were fun, you don't really find enough of them to spice the gameplay up. Aside from gameplay, the game does do a good job at incentivizing changing characters. As you level each hero up, they earn passive skills that benefit the entire family. Additionally, when you're at home in between missions, you can spend collected gold on global upgrades, simple things like health ups or increased experience gain for the entire family. Where the game shines is atmosphere and story. The music that plays in the house really makes you feel like you're in a cozy home where the family is tightly knit. In between dungeons you get snippets of story. The narrator is great and describes the happenings that you see.
Creatures dripping with decay that slithered into bodies stuck between life and death to bolster their ranks. Grandma Margaret confirmed what they all feared. It was the corruption. A cruel entity spoken of only with hushed voices.
You'll encounter relationships between all different family members, and the dynamics are interesting and feel very real. The gorgeous pixel art really brings the place to life. It's so incredibly detailed and the animations are so fluent, it really is a joy to look at. Unfortunately, that isn't enough to make the game fun though, for me at least. Progressing through the game really felt like a trudge, and it pains me to say it because the game is obviously a labor of love, but if the main gameplay loop can't keep me going, then it just isn't fun. Perhaps the highest tier abilities make the game more interesting, but I found it too hard to stay motivated to get to that point. If you found the video helpful, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and maybe hit the bell. If you want to pick up the game for yourself, there is a link in the description to do so. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.